Azurite Sea is just a few days away, and every single enchanted card has been revealed. Very different art styles compared to last set, so let's take a look at each of these cards individually. Starting with the Amber cards, we have Tiana, Chippendale, and Sugar Rush Speedway. So immediately you are starting to notice the dramatically different art style compared to previous Enchanteds. This being Azurite Sea, it's taking more of like a treasure map type feel to it. But taking a look at each of these cards, like Tiana, for example, you have the waitstaff in the background, you have Louis on his trumpet there in the background. Looks like you got Naveen back there as well. So I kind of like this little twist where we have a central point of the enchanted card, but then the background actually has like some elements related to that card, like the Chippendale. You have them swinging from a rope, and even the Sugar Rush Speedway, which honestly isn't my favorite of each of these. I think it's just very busy, but you have, looks like some candy people in the upper left-hand corner. So all in all, the Amber cards, I predict the Tiana is going to be the chaser for this set. Next up, we have Amethyst, where we have Maleficent Staff, Yzma, and Rafiki. I know for a fact that Maleficent Staff has been probably the most discussed online because it immediately looks different from the enchanted cards we've seen so far. It is just a simply darker color. It's more of a dark brown, but also it's a lot more smooth in my opinion. You have Maleficent there in the background. You have the staff right front and center. I'm personally very excited to see what this foiling looks like in person. Shifting gears over to Yzma though, you kind of go back to the original enchanted design that we saw with the Amber cards, where you have Yzma right front and center, but then you have the characteristic elements in the background, like the potions, the various vases, the vials, the animals, the frogs. I think there's a mushroom there in the background. So very much leaning into the chemist aspect of Yzma's character, which I think is pretty neat. And lastly, we have Rafiki, and Rafiki is probably one of my most favorite cards from this set I'm looking forward to playing. But Rafiki, a little bit more prominent in the center with very simple design elements in the background. But Rafiki, the character himself, actually looks almost like the darker color scheme of Maleficent's staff. So it's kind of interesting to point this out. Moving on to Emerald, we have You Came Back, Basil, and Daisy Duck. Now, the Basil card was actually, I think, the first enchanted card that we had revealed from this set a couple weeks ago, and it was the first card that had the community going, oh, like this is going to be a different direction for these enchanted cards. But Basil here very much feeding into the Great Mouse Detective theming, where you have his disguise in one hand, it looks like his hat in another. So very much feeding into the aesthetic of the character, but also the film itself here. Next up being You Came Back, which is a Lilo and Stitch card. Not a whole lot of chatter about this one, just another action enchanted card featuring Lilo and Stitch. And lastly being the Daisy Duck Pirate Captain, very much feeding into the theming of Azurite Sea and pirates and whatnot. I think this card's actually really cool. You have Daisy Duck piloting a ship to some degree. Looks like you have some schematics of a ship in the background of Daisy's card. So quite a neat little flavor here. Next up in Ruby, we have the Islands I Pulled from the Sea, Tigger, and Rhea. Now, the Islands I Pulled from the Sea is a fragment of the lyrics from You're Welcome in Moana. So very iconic song in the Disney franchise. With the Azurite Sea theming, it kind of makes sense that we have another Maui card. Now, it looks like Maui is casting out his fish hook, pulling in a boulder, probably more so an island if we're being correct here. And then we have the schematics of his necklace and the fish hook there in the top center and the left. So just another fun Maui card, considering that we have so many other Maui cards and Moana cards coming inside Azurite Sea. But Tigger actually received his first enchanted card. So we have Tigger dressed up in pirate gear, rappelling from, I believe, what they call the crow's nest on a pirate ship of some nature, with the sail there in the very center. In the upper right-hand corner, we have Tigger bouncing on his tail. So the bouncing on his tail in the upper right-hand corner is a little interesting, but I think this, for a lot of collectors, including myself, is going to be sought after because this is Tigger's first enchanted card. So quite exciting that Tigger is getting some love in Azurite Sea. Lastly is going to be our Rhea card. Rhea, we do have elements of Sisu and like a close-up side profile of Rhea there inside the card as well. So another Rhea card. I believe Rhea's first enchanted, but quite exciting that we have this nod to Rhea here inside this set. In Sapphire, we have Gadget Hackwrench, Baymax, and We Could Be Immortals. So turning our attention to Baymax, big hero characters are coming out in Azurite Sea, the first of its kind in Lorcana. So it makes sense that we did have some Baymax or big hero enchanted cards. But with this Baymax card, this kind of goes back to that Maleficent staff. It's just a very darker card, being more dark brown. We have Baymax front and center, and we have some characteristic elements of the character there in the background as well. So personally, I like this one. I think the foiling is going to be really cool on this one, considering the shape of the character. So Baymax, welcome to Lorcana. Here is your first enchanted card. Next up is going to be We Could Be Immortals, also leaning into the big hero franchise. So we have Baymax, and we also have the other supporting characters from Big Hero inside this card. And next up is going to be Gadget Hackwrench, where, again, going back to the original design of these enchanted cards, we have the character front and center. And something we've noticed is that the center of these cards, like the character, is outlined inside the color of the ink of the card itself. And we also see nods to that with the actual, UI elements showing the strength and willpower and whatnot. So Gadget Hackwrench having those characteristic elements. Looks like we have I think it's a Chromacon there that she's holding. So quite interesting. I like how these cards do feed a little bit into the story of Lorcana. Last but not least is going to be Steel with Captain Amelia, Wreck-It Ralph, and Treasure Mountain. So Captain Amelia, I'm just a big fan of Treasure Planet. It makes sense with Azurite Sea, pirate themes, and whatnot. I'm glad that Captain Amelia has an enchanted card. Looks like we have Captain Amelia right front and center with the legacy in the background. I think it's a clean looking card. Excited to have our first Treasure Planet card. Next up being Wreck-It Ralph, where it almost has like a pixelated look to the card as well. You do have the gauntlets there in the background. Looks like you have Wreck-It Ralph punching some things. We did have Vanellope Von Sweet's Enchanted and a D23 promo card last set, but Wreck-It Ralph receiving his first enchanted card. And lastly is going to be Treasure Mountain, which every so often, Lorcana will actually put out a card or cards that aren't necessarily tied to any sort of franchise, but more so tied to the story of Lorcana. So we have here Treasure Mountain, which is the Azurite Sea Island. Almost looks like the map of Treasure Planet in a sense, but you do have some elements of this. Looks like water overflowing. Maybe we'll see how exactly this ties into the story of Lorcana in the not too distant future. Who knows? Maybe this will be an Ink Table podcast topic. 18 enchanted Disney Lorcana cards are coming out with the release of Azurite Sea, but technically 19 because we have to talk about the Scar Enchanted promo card that's going to be available for the top 8 at set championships at local game shops. So immediately looking at this card, it is different from all the other enchanted cards we've seen. It is a full art card, full color card. But something that I can't help but notice with this one, the artwork is phenomenal. I just think it's a little off theme, and that's something that I'm seeing within the community. We have all these other 18 enchanted cards with pirate ship, treasure map like theming to it, and then we have a full art Scar card where we just had an enchanted Scar card inside Shimmering Skies. So I'm a fan of it. It's going to be sought after by the community. It makes for a great top 8 prize for set championships. My only slight critique with this, I just think it's a little off theme for Azurite Sea. So which enchanted is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below, and also be sure to tune in this Friday, November 15th at 11 p.m. Eastern for a launch day live stream where I'll be unboxing my Azurite Sea booster box. So I'll be going live right after getting back from my local game shop's draft event, and who knows, a little late night stream to see not only what we pull for the collection, but also for gameplay as well. So all that information should be on your screen right now. But folks, Just a few short days to go. Enjoy your draft events this upcoming weekend. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on Friday whenever I go live, and I'll see you all inside the next video.